My ex-husband is homeless, and I'm the reason why. Right now, he's rotting away in a disgusting motel room, while I sleep soundly in the $1 million home he once tried to rip from me. This wasn't some accident. It was a ruthless, calculated takedown. 2 years ago, I was the fool, crying myself to sleep while he paraded his little affair around. Now I own everything he ever wanted, and he's left with nothing but regret. So how did I burn his life to the ground, piece by piece? Let me show you. If you've ever been lied to, cheated on, made to feel worthless by the very person you trusted most, then stay with me. Because this isn't just about revenge. It's about power. It's about turning heartbreak into a weapon and making sure they never forget who they underestimated. 2 years before I watched my ex-husband crawl into a cheap motel, we were the picture-perfect couple. Or so I thought. I'm Emily, 35 years old, born and raised in Chicago. I built my career from scratch, running a small but thriving marketing agency. My husband, well, ex-husband now, his name is Ryan. On paper, Ryan was everything any woman could want. Tall, charming, successful, the kind of man who made people jealous when they saw us together. And to be fair, there was a time I was completely, stupidly in love with him. We met in our late 20s, both ambitious, both hungry for more in life. While I was growing my business, Ryan was climbing the corporate ladder in finance. He had dreams, big ones, and I was the girl who stood by him, sacrificed for him, supported him through every low point. Back then, I didn't see it as sacrifice. I thought it was love. Our home? Gorgeous. 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, complete with the white picket fence, the luxury SUV, the occasional expensive vacation to the Caribbean. On the outside, we looked like we'd made it. On the inside, I was slowly disappearing. See, Ryan wasn't always an outright villain. He knew how to make me feel special. Flowers on Fridays, breakfast in bed on my birthday, random I love you texts during work. But those moments became rarer. Little by little, things shifted. At first it was harmless, or so I convinced myself. Late-night work meetings that left me alone with takeout dinners. Business trips that suddenly popped up last minute. The warmth in his eyes, dulled. The conversations over dinner, shorter. The man I used to dream with now barely looked me in the eye. But I brushed it off. I told myself we were just in a phase. That every marriage had rough patches. That it was my job to hold us together, no matter how hard it got. And God, did I try. I'd wake up early, make his favorite coffee, pack his lunch like some 1950s housewife, even though I was running my own damn company. I thought if I loved him harder, he'd come back to me. That I could fix us, fix him. Our friends envied us. Emily and Ryan, relationship goals, they'd say. Social media was a highlight reel. Cute anniversary posts, date night selfies, those cliché vacation pictures. But behind every picture was a woman who was slowly becoming invisible, and a man who was slipping through her fingers. Looking back, there were so many signs, obvious glaring red flags. But love makes you blind. Or maybe, desperation does. I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to be that woman, the one who failed at marriage. I wanted the life we built together. I wanted to believe in us. In him. So I worked harder. I made more money. I took on more clients, more projects. I bought him that stupid luxury watch he always dreamed of. I booked us surprise getaways. I fought for a marriage I didn't realize was already dead. And through it all, I didn't see what was right in front of me. The little cracks, they were there. Tiny fractures in the foundation of our so-called perfect life. A lipstick stain on his shirt once, which he laughed off as a coworker's hug. Random credit card charges that didn't match any place we went together. New cologne he didn't tell me about. Locked phones, password changes, excuses that became routine. but I wasn't ready to see it. Because seeing it meant admitting I had wasted years on a man who never deserved me. It meant starting over. Alone. And I wasn't strong enough. Not yet. Not until the night everything exploded. Not until I stopped being the fool and started becoming his worst nightmare. It didn't hit me all at once. It was slow, like water dripping onto stone, eroding everything I thought was solid. The first time I really felt it was during a random Thursday night. Ryan walked through the door, suit immaculate, but there was this unfamiliar smell clinging to him. It wasn't his usual woodsy cologne. It was sweeter, lighter, feminine. I teased him about it, thinking maybe a female coworker hugged him goodbye. He laughed, played along. But there was this flicker, a micro-expression I almost missed. A tiny flash of panic before the smile. I told myself I imagined it, but my gut, it twisted. Then came the phone. Ryan, who used to leave his phone carelessly on kitchen counters, now carried it everywhere like it was glued to his hand. Bathroom breaks? Phone in pocket. Dinner time? Screen face down, buzzing with notifications he'd silence quickly. Password? Changed. Twice. I joked about it, asking if he'd become a spy overnight. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "Just work, babe. Boring corporate stuff." But boring didn't make people smile secretly at their screens. Next were the business trips. They multiplied out of nowhere. Suddenly, his calendar was packed with conferences in cities that made no sense. Why would a Chicago finance firm need him in Miami every other month? And why did his LinkedIn show no trace of these conferences? I started asking gentle questions. He answered like a pro, smooth, dismissive, and with just enough detail to make me feel stupid for doubting him. But something had shifted inside me. The Emily who used to sweep doubts under the rug started listening, watching, remembering. The Friday I'll never forget was the charity gala. I showed up looking my best. Black gown, heels that killed my feet, determined to rekindle something. Ryan, however, barely looked at me. He spent most of the night glued to his phone, stepping away for business calls that lasted too long. And when we danced, his hand felt like a stranger's. Cold. Absent. I went home crying that night, realizing I'd dressed up for a ghost of a marriage. Still, I wanted to believe. I wanted proof I was wrong. But proof came anyway, uninvited. One morning, while grabbing laundry from his car, I found it. An earring tucked between the seat and the center console. Not mine. Too flashy. Not my style. My heart dropped. My throat tightened. I took it inside, placed it on the kitchen counter, and waited. When Ryan got home, he spotted it instantly. Panic flared in his eyes. His excuse? It must have fallen from a coworker I gave a ride to after a meeting. I wanted to scream, to accuse, to confront, but instead, I smiled. I nodded. I kissed him. And that's when I realized I wasn't ready to explode. I was ready to watch, to collect, to prepare. Because something snapped that day. I knew. I knew I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't imagining it. Ryan was lying. Ryan was cheating. And soon, he would pay for every single second he made me feel small. But I didn't act impulsively. No. I decided to play the long game, to be quiet, to be patient, until it was my turn to destroy his world. From that day forward, I stopped being the doting wife and became the quiet observer. I didn't scream, I didn't throw things, I didn't accuse, I just watched. Every morning, Ryan left for early meetings, and I noted the time he walked out the door. And when he actually arrived at work, thanks to the location tracker on our shared calendar app. At first, I thought maybe I was overthinking. Maybe traffic explained the 30-minute gaps. But then it happened 3 times in 1 week. No traffic updates, no morning meetings, just gaps. I got smarter. I synced his Google Maps to our shared tablet under the pretense of family scheduling. Suddenly, a pattern emerged. Restaurants we never went to, hotels we never stayed at, random gas stations across town when he was supposedly working late. I didn't react. I didn't breathe a word. I saved every notification, every location ping. Then came the credit card statements. I used to ignore them. Ryan handled most finances while I focused on running my company. But now, I went through every line. Dinners for 2 at steakhouses I'd never visited. Bar tabs that didn't match his quick drinks with colleagues stories. Jewelry store purchases that never made it home. I started keeping a folder, labeled simply receipts. Every transaction, every odd location, every contradiction. I printed them, highlighted them, filed them neatly. One evening, while pretending to scroll Instagram, I caught a glimpse of Ryan's phone reflected on the kitchen window. A woman's name popped up, Sophie, followed by a heart emoji. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "Who's Sophie?" I asked, sounding playful. Ryan barely flinched. "New client. She's very demanding." I nodded, kissed his cheek, walked away, and made a mental note. Later that night, I searched through his LinkedIn connections. No Sophie. Company directory? No Sophie. I dug deeper, reverse searched the number on a burner site, and there it was. Multiple entries, flagged under escort services, listed under different names. That was the moment something inside me died, and something colder replaced it. It wasn't just an affair. It was betrayal on every level: time, money, respect. But I didn't confront him. I smiled more. I acted sweeter. I told him to take more time for himself, encouraged his business trips, even helped him pack. Why? Because now I wanted it all. Not just revenge, but everything he thought belonged to him. I reached out to a friend, Carla, a divorce attorney with a reputation for turning cheaters inside out. Quietly, discreetly, Carla taught me how to gather legal proof without Ryan suspecting a thing. Keyloggers installed on our home computer. Data syncs from his cloud accounts. Even voice recordings from the house Alexa after he accidentally took calls on speaker while I was out grocery shopping. Every week, my folder grew thicker. Every month, my smile grew wider. Ryan had no clue. He thought I was slipping back into the sweet wife phase. He didn't realize I was collecting the kind of evidence that could financially ruin him in court. The final straw came when I tracked his supposed business trip to a beachfront resort 3 hours away, booked under my name, paid with our joint card. That night, while he sent me fake selfies from a conference room, I sat in my living room, sipping wine, flipping through pictures of him on the beach, with her. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't angry. I was laser-focused. I no longer wanted to save my marriage. I wanted to bury it. And I was going to make sure Ryan crawled out of it with nothing but his pathetic excuses. I waited for the perfect moment to strike. Not in anger, not in chaos. I wanted control, precision, and most importantly, leverage. Our 7th wedding anniversary was approaching. I knew Ryan would forget. He had been too busy working late and attending business trips to notice anything meaningful in our marriage, but I remembered, and I had a plan. That morning, I surprised him with a smile and said, "Happy anniversary, babe. I made reservations at your favorite steakhouse tonight." Ryan blinked, fumbled for a fake smile, and muttered, "Oh, yeah, totally forgot. Work's been crazy." I nodded. "Don't worry, I've taken care of everything." And I had. Dinner was beautiful. Dim lights, expensive wine, every course perfect. Ryan looked smug, probably thinking he'd dodged a bullet, thinking I was still the clueless wife desperate for his attention. Then dessert arrived, with a special little envelope placed on his plate. Ryan chuckled. "What's this? Anniversary gift?" I smiled wider than I had in months. "Oh, it's something sweet. You'll love it." He opened it and froze. Inside were printed screenshots, his hotel bookings, messages to Sophie, credit card transactions, time-stamped photos, even GPS records. His face drained of color faster than I could have imagined. He tried to speak. I held up a hand. "Don't bother. I know everything, Ryan," he stammered, grasping for lies like a drowning man grabbing at air. "It's not what it looks like. I can explain." I laughed. A cold, unrecognizable laugh. "Explain what? How you blew our savings on escorts? How you paraded me like a trophy wife while funding your little vacations with our joint account? No, Ryan. You don't get to talk. I do." His jaw clenched, desperation creeping in. "Emily, we can fix this. Therapy. Counseling. This doesn't have to be the end." I leaned in, voice quiet but deadly. "Oh, it is the end. But not just of us. It's the end of your cushy little life." His brows furrowed, confusion turning to panic. "What? What are you talking about?" I pulled out a second folder, this one labeled Settlement Proposal. "This is your future. You'll sign over the house, because I have proof you paid for mistresses using marital funds. You'll surrender 70% of your assets, because I have documentation of financial misconduct. You'll pay spousal support, because your career was built on the foundation I provided while you destroyed ours." His voice cracked. You can't do this." I smiled. "I already have. Every document here is prepped for court. Every lawyer I spoke to. They laughed at how airtight this case is. But I'm offering you a choice. Sign the settlement quietly, or I go public. File for divorce with full disclosure. And trust me, you won't survive the scandal." His hands trembled. The man who once looked down on me sat small, powerless, cornered. He tried one last pathetic attempt. You'd ruin me just to get revenge?" I finished my wine, stood up slowly, looked him in the eye. "No, Ryan. I'm not ruining you for revenge. I'm doing it because you thought I'd stay stupid, stay blind, stay weak." I leaned forward, whispering, "Happy anniversary, darling. I'm setting myself free." I walked out of that restaurant taller, stronger, freer than I'd felt in years, while behind me sat a man realizing he wasn't going home, because everything he called home now belonged to me. Ryan didn't go home that night, because after I left the restaurant, I called Carla, my attorney, and within hours, every asset freeze was in motion. His company cards, suspended. Our joint accounts, locked. His name on the house, legally erased within the week thanks to the evidence of marital fraud. I gave him 48 hours to respond to the settlement offer, 48 hours to choose whether to go down quietly or face public humiliation in court. Ryan tried to negotiate, begged, threatened. He even had the nerve to accuse me of ruining his life. I didn't flinch, because here's what he didn't realize. The moment he chose to betray me, he chose his own downfall. I was simply giving him the consequences wrapped in a neat legal package. He finally signed, not out of guilt, but out of fear. Fear of losing his job after Carla prepared a report ready to be sent to his HR department, detailing misuse of funds. Fear of losing every friend who thought he was the perfect husband. Fear of being dragged through court, with receipts and screenshots played out for everyone to see. Once the papers were filed, things moved fast. The house officially transferred to me. 2 of his personal investment accounts, liquidated to pay off settlement costs. Ryan was left with his basic salary, no bonuses, no perks. His company, though too image-conscious to fire him outright, demoted him after internal financial inconsistencies surfaced, courtesy of me nudging the right people. His fancy car? Gone. Repossessed when he couldn't afford the payments. His downtown gym membership? Cancelled. The flashy watch collection he once bragged about? Sold at auction to settle personal debts he racked up without me knowing. I thrived. I upgraded my company's office, took long overdue vacations, rebuilt my self-worth from the ground up. But most importantly, I lived freely. I no longer tiptoed around a man's moods, no longer questioned my worth based on his attention. As for Ryan, the last I heard, he was renting a tiny room in a second-rate motel on the outskirts of town. No car, no luxury, no high-powered career, just a man drowning in consequences. Sometimes people asked me if I felt guilty. Did it feel too cruel? Had I gone too far? And I always smiled and answered truthfully, no, not for a second. Because I didn't destroy an innocent man. I didn't break a loyal husband. I dismantled a fraud, a coward, a cheat. And every piece he lost, he handed to me through his lies. I could have chosen to walk away quietly, to be the bigger person. But why should I have been quiet while he'd paraded his betrayals so openly? Why should I carry the scars while he walked away clean? No, I chose differently. I chose to fight smart, not loud. I chose to win not just emotionally, but financially, legally, completely. And looking back now, standing in my house that once bore his name, I knew I'd made the right choice. Some battles aren't about forgiveness. Some battles are about making sure they never forget the woman they underestimated. Just when I thought I'd uncovered every betrayal, the universe decided to hand me one final revelation, one that almost made me laugh out loud. A month after the divorce was finalized, I received an unmarked envelope at my office. No return address, no sender information, just my name scrawled in bold letters. Inside was a USB drive. Curiosity got the better of me. Plugging it into my laptop, I found folders neatly organized by dates, spanning nearly 3 years of Ryan's life. At first, I assumed it was just more affair evidence, maybe from a friend trying to help. But as I opened the files, my stomach churned. Emails, text messages, voice notes, not just to mistresses, but to lawyers, financial advisors, secret accounts. Ryan hadn't just been cheating on me emotionally, he had been preparing to financially cut me out of everything. I scrolled through the first folder. 6 months before our divorce, he'd contacted a shady offshore lawyer in the Cayman Islands, asking about opening undisclosed accounts. In another folder, there were wire transfer confirmations, small amounts at first, then larger sums, money siphoned off from our joint accounts into private investments under shell company names. One voice note stopped me cold. It was Ryan, smug, arrogant, telling someone, "I'll stick around until I can cash out. She's oblivious, too busy running her little business. Once I have enough stacked, I'll ghost her. Maybe move to Miami, live it up." My fingers tightened around the mouse. I thought I'd caught everything. I thought I'd controlled the narrative. But Ryan had been planning to gut me financially long before I caught him with Sophie. The timing made sense. His sudden interest in business trips, his advice for me to invest in risky ventures that tanked, while he withdrew money silently on the side. For a moment, I felt this eerie sense of betrayal all over again. But then, a slow, satisfied smile crept across my face, because what Ryan didn't know was that I'd already recovered those funds during the asset division. Carla and I had been meticulous, tracing every legal financial channel. What we hadn't seen were the illegal ones. And now, I had evidence, clear-cut, time-stamped, self-incriminating evidence of financial fraud, offshore evasion, and premeditated marital theft. I called Carla immediately. Her reaction? Emily, this man was planning to bury you, and now we're going to finish what you started. Within weeks, Carla filed an addendum to our divorce case, requesting a full financial audit, citing newly discovered fraudulent behavior. The court approved. Ryan's bank accounts? Frozen again. His secret offshore funds? Exposed. Authorities got involved, and an investigation launched into possible tax evasion and fraudulent misappropriation. I didn't just take his house, I didn't just take his money. I took the future he thought he'd escape into. Ryan's arrogant voice haunted my memory. I'll ghost her. Live it up. Reality. He was ghosted by every friend he had, broke, pending legal action, unable to leave the state without court approval. This was no longer just a divorce. This was complete dismantling, financially, socially, and reputationally. And the irony? His own arrogance handed me the final weapon. His own planning became his downfall. Sometimes, karma doesn't wait decades. Sometimes, karma shows up gift-wrapped with receipts and recorded voicemails. And I made sure every last piece of his betrayal was paid in full. The day Ryan's offshore accounts were seized, I didn't celebrate with champagne or some flashy Instagram post. I just breathed. For the first time in years, I felt my chest rise and fall without that dull, invisible weight pressing on it. The silence in my house wasn't suffocating anymore. It was peaceful, freeing. In the weeks that followed, the world around me shifted in ways I hadn't expected. Ryan became a cautionary tale in our social circle. Friends who used to envy our perfect marriage now whispered behind his back, distanced themselves. His company slowly edged him out, not through firing, but by giving him meaningless projects, stripping his authority, and making it clear he was a liability. And me? I didn't just return to my old self. I became someone entirely new. I redesigned the house. Every corner that reminded me of him was purged, repainted, replaced. I tore down the photos of us pretending to be happy and replaced them with memories I made for myself. Travel shots, spontaneous adventures, snapshots of me laughing without restraint. My company thrived. I expanded operations, hired more women who had gone through divorces, and created a workspace where empowerment wasn't a cliché, but a daily practice. Yet, the biggest change wasn't external. It was how I viewed myself. For so long, I thought love meant sacrificing, enduring, fixing. I thought my worth was tied to how well I could hold a relationship together, even if it was killing me slowly. But standing on the other side of this storm, I realized love isn't supposed to drain you. It's supposed to nurture, to elevate, to bring peace, not paranoia. There were tough days, of course. Days I'd wake up wondering if the entire marriage had been a lie. Nights where the house felt too quiet, my bed too empty. But those moments came and went, like clouds passing through a sunny sky. Because each morning I woke up on my own terms. No lies, no anxiety, no wondering who my partner was texting, where he really was, or what excuse I'd be fed next. I started saying yes to things I used to postpone: hiking trips, weekend getaways, new hobbies. I found joy in the simplest routines: early morning runs by the lake, late night reading marathons, cooking for myself without worrying if someone else would complain about the spices. And I met people, new people. Not to replace Ryan, not to move on quickly, but to expand my world beyond the narrow cage I'd been stuck in. Interestingly, some of those friends were women who had gone through similar betrayals. Our stories were different, but our scars were the same. And together we laughed louder, healed faster, built stronger. One evening, Carla joined me for dinner, grinning as she shared the final update on Ryan's legal mess. 6 months probation, heavy fines, mandatory financial counseling. He's basically starting from scratch. I smiled, not out of cruelty, but satisfaction. Funny, I said. He always said he wanted to be self-made. Guess life granted his wish, just not the way he imagined. Carla raised her glass. To rebuilding on our own terms. And that became my mantra. I wasn't interested in revenge for revenge's sake. This wasn't about destroying a man for personal satisfaction. It was about reclaiming power, rewriting the narrative I had been trapped in. Because here's the truth, people rarely admit. Sometimes you don't get closure through forgiveness. Sometimes you get closure by making sure the person who shattered you never gets to do it again, to anyone else. I didn't want an apology from Ryan. I didn't need explanations, excuses, or fake remorse. What I needed was to remember who I was before he dimmed my light, and to become someone even stronger after. I learned boundaries, learned how to listen to my intuition, learned that loving someone doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Most importantly, I learned the quiet power of walking away. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to stop watering dead plants. Months passed, the seasons changed, and with each passing day, I smiled more. One morning, I stood by the same window where I used to watch Ryan's car pull away, my heart filled with anxiety. But now, I watched the sunrise, golden, soft, promising, no bitterness, no regret, just freedom. And for the first time, I whispered to myself, "You didn't just survive, you conquered."